It's time for the No Nonsense Roundtable. Insights to capture your imagination from people you know and people you'd like to know about. Each week, a different guest from a different walk of life. Now, here is the host of the No Nonsense Roundtable, Dom Genova.
Well, good morning and welcome to another edition of the No Nonsense Roundtable. I'm your host, Dom Genova, every Saturday here, 10 to 11 on News Radio WHAM 1180. And I have to tell you, I am here with somebody I am proud to call a friend. I can call you a friend, can't I?
Absolutely. It's mutual.
And the fellow's name is Dave McCleary. He is the editor-publisher of the Minority Reporter. And we've known each other now for a couple of years. And he's a guy that not only you should know, but everybody you know should know him. You have a really tremendous publication. Well, let me tell everybody the story about how we met. Guests beget other guests. So I had Gary Craig on the show, and he came here with an idea that I should have Patty Singer on the show. And Patty was a reporter for you, right?
Yes, she was. She came to us after leaving the Democrat and Chronicle. And, she's moved on. Actually, December, she moved on to some other things, but we're still in contact. But I got to tell you, just bringing up Patty, I'm glad that you did that, because I met her. We met at a coffee shop, and she gave me her background. And I thought, well, geez, Patty Singer, she has all this experience. And here I am, a publisher of a black focused newspaper, and of course a white woman that says, hey, I want to help you, I want to work in the publication. And I brought her on, and I kid you not, it's been the most productive last couple of years that she's been with us. She did just a tremendous job. I have nothing but great things to say about her and the things that she's really done. And she was out there in the community and not afraid to address the issues and to really press into some of the real issues within the community. So, Patty, I hope that you're listening. We want you back.
Well, the thing that impressed me is that she put me on the direction of the Minority Reporter. And I have to tell a story about somebody years and years ago. And there was an artist, and this woman had a display in London. And it was demonstration art or whatever. And what she did is she had a ladder. And this ladder went to a ceiling that was 10, 15 feet high. And when you got up to the ladder and you took this magnifying glass and you looked at the ceiling, the word on the ceiling was yes. And this is in the day with a lot of different social issues going on and whatever. And a word on the ceiling after getting up there was yes. And that artist was Yoko Ono, and that's how John Lennon met Yoko Ono. And he was expecting that to say F you or down with the man or whatever, but it was yes. So I look at first time I saw your newspaper, information leads to, or information to understanding is right on your masthead. And I got that same feeling. It's like, yes, yes. That's what impressed me about the Minority Reporter.
Well, yeah, from information to understanding, because when we started the newspaper back in 2007, what I wanted to do was address the issues, and I wanted to create a platform where we can have dialogue, where we can actually talk. You can't solve problems if we're not listening to each other. So it's about getting, just having information is one thing, but being able to get an understanding, then that takes you to another dimension that we can all now begin to have some dialogue and begin to really move forward, whatever the issue is.
Well, one of the problems we're having is that people are not even listening. I mean, isn't that something you can subscribe to?
Absolutely. It's the tribalism, so everyone is in their little camps to the left or to the right, and we're not coming together. And then you're talking about journalism. So, what has happened over the years with that is I think that people are now getting their news from whatever source they agree with. And, I think organizations that call themselves news organization should really be news organization. If you're really just trying to spread a particular ideology or propaganda about something, then I get that. We have commentators. We have, like, in our newspaper, I have people who write editorials. I don't agree with all of them, but we put them in because it's their opinion. So it's the difference between opinion versus news. But people are getting their news now from opinion outlets.
And the 24-hour news cycle has got to be precipitating a lot of that.
Absolutely. It's the 24-hour news cycle. Things are faster now, and social media.
One of the things I notice about your op-ed department or section in your newspaper is that you carry a lot of different opinions that you may or may not agree with. You have a pretty open way of accepting op-eds, I see.
Well, absolutely. If we're going to call ourselves a news organization, then we've got to do that. It's opinion. So if you have an opinion, it's not right or wrong. It's your opinion. So share your opinion on whatever that issue may be. Now, me as a publisher, and sometimes I get, kickback on that. Well, why do you have this guy on social media? Why do you have this guy writing this that we disagree with? Well, this is not censorship,
Right. And having an open mind is probably the most important thing, right?
Well, sure. It's the reason that, personally, I watch Fox News, I watch CNN because I want to have a balance. I want to hear what's happening on the left. I want to hear what's happening on the right. And somewhere in there's truth.
Well, Daniel Patrick Moynihan, the senator from years ago, said everybody is entitled to their own opinion, but not their own facts. So now we start worrying about are the facts correct or not? And then I think the other thing that you probably can agree with is that it's the fringes have a lot of voice these days.
Yes. And social media has definitely amplified those voices. It is the reason that people now just can't even agree on, you mentioned about facts, just basic facts. You and I have had conversations, and we've chatted. Let's talk about the past presidential election. If we can't agree that the election, on some basic facts, that the election was not stolen, then I don't know where we can go with that conversation. There's a certain amount of waste or contamination in anything. Take, for example, people eat hot dogs. The FDA says there's a certain amount of acceptable contamination. Does that mean that the hot dog is bad?
Well, yeah, it all becomes a matter of degrees, I think, because there's there's going to be a little bit of waste in everything, and I think there's going to be a little bit of a problem in tabulating everything. But does that raise itself to the point where you're going to storm the Capitol and try to overthrow the government? I mean, nothing is absolute, as absolutely pure, and nothing is absolutely without waste or some type of error to it. And I think that's what we get into. I'm Dom Genova, your host, here with a friend and a fellow that owns a newspaper here in the Rochester, Syracuse area, and it's called The Minority Reporter. And I'd like to explain again and again that the masthead says from information to understanding, which is sort of the foundation and the bedrock of the whole concept of the newspaper, right?
Certainly. And, before the last break, we started to chat about, the current environment and, and in the context of from information to understanding, I find it challenging, so let's chat about the politics.
Absolutely.
And the political environment right now. So I have friends, close friends, intelligent people But we have a conversation and we start with, and they say, well, Dave, the election was stolen. And it's hard to move from there, because if you start with those, with a set of facts that's, not factual, then, how do you have an intelligent conversation moving forward, from there?
Well, I think part of the conversation that we need to have, all told, is that people take different data and they amplify it to their own prejudged beliefs. So to my point, and I'll debate this point with you about the election being stolen or not, is that there probably are a few bad ballots out there. So, I mean, I'll tell you an example. So a while back, I was in New York City, and somebody's handing out these pamphlets, and they said, you agree that you're going to vote and you're a good citizen, sign here. Now, somebody has a name and an address and sign here and whatever. Now, are they doing anything nefarious with that? I don't know. I mean, but the way I look at it is it distorting the voting process so much that it overturned an election. Exactly. So anybody can find an error in anything. I mean, nothing is 100% pure. It's just at what level did that happen? And when you start going through the data, you got to take a look at the data and say, is that enough? Is that really what happened? Or are you exaggerating this in your own mind? And I think it goes for anything. The other thing is that we take a certain amount of facts and whatever, and then we come to a conclusion without analyzing the checker on the second move, I call it.
Yeah, people are now. What's discouraging for me is that I think people believe things that are not factual because it fits the narrative. It fits their ideology. So rather than just looking at the facts and saying, okay, let's just agree to start here that black and white or the gray areas, let's just agree on what these, and then try to move forward from there. But
there's some things we can't agree on. You see, I debate this point with you too. There are some things we can't agree on. There are social issues that we can say need to be addressed. But how do you address those things? So let me throw something out to you. I mean, defund the police, right? There are a lot of people that say we need no police. Well, I don't know how anybody can subscribe to the point that we can do without police. You need police. You need somebody to protect people from people who are blatantly evil.
Of course, we need the police, and in some of the neighborhoods in the city of Rochester, of course, we need the police there. It's a different issue to talk about that. There are some police officers who do very bad things. Let's deal with that. But don't cut off your nose to spite your face.
Well, I liken it. I mean, it's like taking wood out of the bottom of your boat to fix the deck. I mean, you know what's going to happen with that. And so that leads to the concept of people believing in zero-sum games. Zero-sum game, for anybody that maybe there are a couple of people out there don't know what zero-sum game is. It's like checkers. Somebody ends up with all the checkers, somebody has none of the checkers. So if you're looking at defund the police, you're saying take the money from the police department to spend on social programs. But my opinion is you need both. You need social programs and you need good policing too.
Absolutely. There's a whole slew of issues and things, and as a journalist, and I'm a journalist, I'm an entrepreneur. Started the newspaper because there was a need, and I wanted to find a way to make sure that we were amplifying the issues, particular issues in some of the African American and Latino communities, because we also actually publish a Spanish newspaper as well called La Voz. So wanted to make sure that we are amplifying those issues and making sure that Blacks and Latinos have a voice to the issues, because people have, but our community or communities, I mean, it's not monolithic. There isn't just one Black view. It's a multitude of views, and that's why we have people that write opinions. They put out what they think on certain things, and someone else may disagree with that. But there are a lot of issues in our communities, and we definitely need to find ways to address them.
A few months ago, I had our new mayor, Malik Evans, was before the election, but he was saying that he said you get on a plane from anywhere and you come into Rochester, you don't say I'm flying to Greece or Brighton or whatever. It's Rochester. So it's one community, and what he said to me hit a really good chord. It was almost like Kennedy-esque in what he said. He said Rochester, the city of Rochester, and the community affects all of this area. And I think your paper is a good way of people kind of finding out about the rest of Rochester that you don't see maybe in some other publications.
Yeah, well, we're all connected, and the mayor is exactly right. What happens in the city affects, the suburban communities as well, and we all need to work together to find ways to solve these issues.
Well, before we get into the break, I just want to kind of set up what we're going to do when we come back from the break. And what I'd like to do is start talking about, it's the beginning of the year, what your hopes are for 2022 and your view of 2021. I mean, what are you hopeful for? What went right? What went wrong in 2021? And I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the newspaper itself, how many people you have working there, and what your schedule is like. And I know you're an entrepreneur and you have something else that's taking up some of your time. So it's great having you on. You're listening to the No Nonsense Roundtable. I'm Dom Genova, your host, here with Dave McCleary, the publisher, owner of the Minority Reporter newspaper, a fine publication. And let's tell people how to get a hold of it right now. The website is?
Yeah, they can go to minorityreporter.net, and we have a number of ways. There's articles on our site. They can subscribe to receive the newspaper both in hard copy or electronically. Yeah, all that information is on our site. And I got to thank you. Sorry, not to cut you off, because Don, you sponsored one of our subscription programs last year, which resulted in us, picking up a number of new subscribers. So thank you very much for that.
Well, thank you. And that leads into me doing a little bit of retail. I'd like to give a shout out again to the Bob Johnson Auto Group, who sponsors the show and allows me to do what I'm doing right now. And if you want a great place to buy a car, get a car or truck fixed, I would suggest you go to the Bob Johnson Auto Group. So let's talk about 2021, 2022. One of the reasons I wanted you on the show as soon as possible this year is that I see something coming over the horizon. It's like the roll of thunder or heat lightning on a Sunday, hot July evening, and we have this thing called the election cycle. And I just see this thing coming this year, and it's going to be, it's going to be strong, brutal. It's going to be full of nonsense, I think, and I'm just a little bit concerned about the whole thing.
And I think rightfully so. You talk about the national elections coming up. The atmosphere and the climate is already being set. To have a really challenging. For me, it's a little disappointing to even think about that this is the United States of America, and we have to really be concerned about an election coming up.
Yeah, and the thing that just drives me nuts is the negative ads. You know what the negative ads are going to be like. I'm a marketing guy. You know, the negative ads. The opponent is going to be in black and white. You know, and it's going to show them in the worst. And so if so and so gets elected, you know, the world is going to fall apart. And it's like, oh my God, the negative stuff. And the positive messages just get truncated by that. The ideas that people have are drowned out by the negative ads. And that just drives me nuts, because don't tell me how bad the other guy is. Tell me what you can do.
Yeah, well, those days seem to, I don't want to say that they're gone, but, you know, it's the old thing that, you know, negativity sells. Right. You know, controversy.
Fear sells.
Yes.
Fear sells. I mean, I had a boss that once said, it's so simple, but it's so true. People are motivated by one of two things, either getting something or having something taken away from them. Mm-hmm. So fear sells. So what are people going to be afraid of in 2022?
Well, I would definitely like to think that 2022 is going to be a year that there will be more opportunities this coming year. You know, just back up and look at the city of Rochester. You know, last year we had a mayor who was in crisis. You know, so many things that was going on, you know, with that. Now we have a new administration that has come in. Malik Evans, he's young, he's ambitious, he's got a lot of ideas. I think that the community needs to support him and give him a chance so that we can, you know, move forward.
I'm going to do a little shameless self-promotion here, because I invited Malik to come on my show a few months ago. He says, well, I met you once before. I says, well, you know, I don't remember meeting you. He goes, you gave a guest lecture at Nazareth College about ethics. He says, and I was in the class. He says, I remember that. So now I remember the fella, and he's very accomplished. And the thing about Malik is that he worked for M&T Bank and ESNL, and I have to believe he took a pretty big step backward to become mayor financially, and that means something. Sometimes you have to go backward to go forward, or sometimes your path in life is not exactly straight. And you know, I think we're all hopeful for him to succeed. You know, somebody said once, what was it? Pulling against the person running the place is like not rooting for the pilot in your plane. I mean, that's you know, what's the point? So
yeah. Well, you know, he's going to have some challenges on his hands, you know, but again, he's got some good ideas. There are a lot of issues in the city, you know, and it's like the issues, you know, they haven't really changed much, but we definitely need fresh ideas, and we need to work together.
Well, the other fellow that's running now, and I want your opinion about this, is that Laurent Singletary is running for Congress. And somebody online or whatever is like, yeah, but he's a Republican. Okay.
Right now, see, now you want me as a journalist to share my opinion, right now. but here's the thing, and I will say this. I think we need to stop looking so much at labels. And let's look at the person's platform. Let's look at their ideas, and let that be the judge of who you vote for. You know, I will say that that's the way I politically. So I'm not a registered Democrat. I'm not a registered Republican by choice, because I don't get to vote in the primaries. That's okay, but I like to be able to pick the candidate that I feel who's the best for the job. You know, Don, it's one of the reasons I don't write editorials in my newspaper. Not that I don't have opinions on things, but I don't feel like that's my place to share my opinion on certain things. We're a newspaper. We're covering the news. We want to deal more with facts and those things, and be balanced and present the information to people, and then hopefully they can go from information to understanding.
I think you're giving people a pretty pretty good idea of what the publication is all about. It's journalism, and it's not meant to sway people. It's meant to educate people, and it's really a good way of getting news that might be missed by other publications, because that's what you concentrate in. I mean, it's like anything else. I mean, if you want to learn about a certain discipline, you get a publication that talks about that discipline, but you hope it doesn't have the bias to try to sway you in one way or another. I respect you not doing your own editorials. I mean, and again, like I said at the beginning of the show, you have editorials in there or op-eds from different people in the community, and sometimes they're very diametrically opposed. I see you smiling because you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. But that's necessary.
Right.
You know, I chatted before about the fact that, you know, our community is not monolithic. You know, we have an array of ideas and opinions on different things. And so what I like to consider myself is the guy that has created a platform for those things. And it's really, Dom, about unity. You know, it's really about uniting people, bringing people together, because you can't come together, you can't be united, you can't have understanding until we get to know each other, we get to know how we think, our thoughts, our opinions on things. And so, you know, that's one of the things that I think that we're able to do with the publication.
Thanks for listening. We just got our latest figures from Arbitron, and we have 12,800 listeners, they say, sometime during the hour, in and out maybe a little bit, but that's an awful lot of people we're talking to. And thank you for listening. I'm here with Dave McCleary, the owner and publisher of the Minority Reporter. Now, Dave, we were talking about 2022 and an awfully interesting year coming up. So give me your thoughts. What should people be thinking about and doing?
Basically, I think people should simmer down the rhetoric a little bit, and that's my hope, and that people would begin to deal more with facts and logic and get their news from a number of different news sources. Don't just stay in that one venue that you've been using. And, you know, hopefully, preferably, my source will be one of those sources that they'll consider.
Well, we were talking before, you know, I subscribe to an idea, and I subscribe to your newspaper. One of the ideas I subscribe to is something that you said just before. You say you look at the news, CNN and Fox and New York Times, and when you start looking at all of that together, it's sort of like you're at court and you see a trial, and there are different witnesses on different sides, and they all have their own opinions and ideas. And somewhere in there, I think you can find the grain of truth. There's a feeling that this is really what happened between the two of them. Because I think the problem is we've become so tribal, we only talk to people in our tribe. And if you're only going to talk to people in your tribe, that's all the information that you're going to get.
Exactly. And so I think, you know, we can all learn more by looking at different sources, looking at things that you don't normally agree with. Let's just say that. And don't get all your news from social media. Don't get it all from Facebook or from one particular source. Try to expand that, and so that you can have different perspectives on things. And in many ways, Dom, I think that we kind of have to be like a juror.
Yeah.
And a jury, you know, weigh the evidence, look at all those things, look at all of the black and white and the gray areas, and then make an opinion from there.
Well, somebody told me once, an attorney told me that in a trial, there's usually a ring of truth. You know, there's a ring of truth. I mean, it certainly came out in the Jesse Smollett a trial. You know, something just did. You know, when push came to shove, it just wasn't right, and it took not the media to bring that to light. It took the jury system, but it eventually came to light because there was a ring of truth to what the prosecution was saying, I'll say. Now, one thing I wanted to make sure we get across to people that are potential subscribers to the Minority Reporter. Now, when you read a newspaper, there's journalism and there's op-ed. Now, One side of your paper is journalism. What happened in City Hall, what happened with this particular issue, whatever. Now, some of the op-eds you're not going to agree with. You read the Minority Reporter. Some you're going to agree with, some you're not going to agree with. The thing is not to drag your opinion about an op-ed into the side of the journalism, because the journalism is journalism. What I say, I went to St. Bonaventure. We had a great journalism school there, still have a great journalism school. And there were standards that you had to follow to have a story vetted and in the paper. And I think that's very important for people to see when they consider the Minority Reporter.
Absolutely, and I think that in general, people need to understand that. And I think that's some of where the disinformation and misinformation is coming from, because I think that the general public, in many instances, is not differentiating between the opinion that they're getting versus what was this news. And you have a lot of opinion guys, pretending to be news guys, and putting things out, and people are being deceived into believing, just extreme things. So when you read the Minority Reporter, yes, we focus a lot on local news. We cover the city school district, the Rochester Police Department, City Hall, the things that's happening in the community. And then we have people like Howard Eagle, who's going to write an opinion about, something. He's an advocate in the community, or Michael Vaughn, who is a reverend who has another set of opinions, and the two are diametrically opposed to each other. However, they're necessary because they're a part of our community, and they represent ideas of people within the community.
Okay, Dave, we have about 3 minutes left. So let me let you have 3 minutes of shameless self-promotion here. Tell me about the newspaper, how many people subscribe to it, the people you have working there, stuff you're most proud of.
First of all, I want to say thank you so much, Dom, for having me on your show. Definitely got much respect for you since I met you a couple years ago, and we've shared so many stories and anecdotes and what have you.
And some we can't share online on the air. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, some we can't share on the air. Yeah.
And I was telling you that this is one of probably the only interview that I've done. I generally don't do interviews. So I definitely agree to do this because of who you are, and I definitely appreciate the opportunity. I consider myself to be very. I'm honored to have been able to publish a paper in the city. We started this in 2007. And so it's been a number of years now, and so I'm just grateful that I've had the opportunity to participate with this endeavor in the community. We're still a small staff. We're a small publication. We're published on Thursdays. I've got a handful of people. I think I have literally 3 reporters, that do the work. I have another young woman, Tyronda James, who is our editor now, and who goes through the pub and edits everything down and what have you. So it's a labor of love, but we all believe in what we're doing, and we believe that it's necessary. So our website is minorityreporter.net. If you want more information, you can also send us an email at info@minorityreporter.net, or give us a call, 585-301-4199. That's 585-301-4199. I'm not that great at self-promotion.
You're doing fine. And to that point, thank you ever so much for coming in and talking to us. The idea that we should be talking to one another, whether we ultimately agree or not, We should be talking to one another, that we understand each other and understand where each other is coming from. And if we can make one little step in that direction, I think that, I think it's a good thing. And, you try to leave the place a little better than the way you found it, and that's the meaning of life. At least I think so. So thank you again for coming in, and hope to have you again.
Thank you. It'll be my pleasure.